Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Women in Math and STEM, where our mission is to reach out to as many professionals, aspiring professionals, students, whatever you name it. We try to reach out to them, who essentially support the initiative of bringing more women and young girls into the STEM field. So, with that being said, as always, feel free to open up the description or transcript to better follow along, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hi, and thank you so much for coming to this call today and talking with me. Just to sort of start off, could you walk us through your journey to get you where you are today?
Yeah, sure. First, thank you very much for having me here. So yes, my name is Florent Michel. I am the head of cryptography at Optalysys, a UK-based company developing hardware for cryptography. And before joining Optalysys, I studied math and physics and got a PhD in cosmology in Orsay in France.
Were you always interested in math and physics, or was this something that you developed as you were like studying in college?
Yes, I was interested in math and physics, essentially from as far as I can remember. So initially, it was primarily in physics, more specifically astrophysics. I wanted to understand how stars work, how they evolve, how the universe expands, and all these things. And yes, so this motivated me to study physics and then math because a lot of modern physics is based on math. And yes, then I started to study cryptography when I joined Optalysys. It is something we do as a company.
And then I was wondering, like, while you were studying math, physics, and cryptography, what were some of the most enjoyable classes or moments you remember?
Yeah, some of the most enjoyable classes. I guess one of them was the general relativity class that I took in third year university. Yes, I found really fascinating the way it uses abstract mathematical ideas to explain very concrete things like how gravity works or how stars evolve and move in space. I also quite enjoy the thermodynamics classes, mostly for the interaction between mathematics and physics that they involve.
And then, sort of on that same note, what have been some of your favorite areas of research or like areas of work?
Yeah, I think one of my favorite areas of research is probably homomorphic encryption, which is so yes, a field of cryptography which allows you to do computations on encrypted data. And that's one thing I like a lot with that is the way it merges kind of very abstract ideas from mathematics with also really concrete applications. That's kind of a way to actually apply interesting mathematical ideas to the real world.
And I think you mentioned you were like the head of cryptography. What does that sort of like look like, and what does like your job look like on a daily basis?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So on a daily basis, it depends a lot really. There's no very typical day. So yes, in practice, it's mostly a lot of mathematics, programming, and a little bit of management. So I manage a small team. So yes, a typical day can involve having a catch-up meeting with my team to kind of review the priorities, see what the different projects are going on, if there's any blocker and difficulty or not. And yes, then generally maybe reading some research articles in mathematics or working on designing or improving an algorithm and a lot of coding too, because it's so nice to try to understand at an abstract level the algorithm, how algorithms work, but if we want to really make a difference, we have to actually implement it. So yes, a lot of coding too.
And then I think I read in your bio that you were also interested in post-quantum cryptography. I was wondering if that was something like you do at work or something you like pursue as a hobby or something like that.
Yeah, yes, that's something I do at work. Actually, so homomorphic encryption that I primarily work on is part of post-quantum cryptography. And yeah, that's really a field that I see really emerging very fast. And yeah, something should becoming more and more important in the field of cryptography.
And then sort of on the same note, just as like a fun question, where do you sort of see cryptography and post-quantum cryptography or like quantum computers in like a few years or like a decade from now?
That's a very good question too. Yes, yes. I wish I could have a crystal ball to see how things will evolve in the next few years and decades. Yeah. So regarding cryptography, I think I see two main trends, two main current trends, which will probably continue at least in the next few years. So the first one is, and this relates to your previous question, the rise of post-quantum cryptography. In fact, since quantum computers are not yet powerful enough to break current crypto systems, but they may become powerful enough to break things like RSA in the next few years or decades, and therefore it is more important than ever to start to implement and embed post-quantum cryptography schemes into standard into current workflows. And yes, I think that's something that is already starting to become very important in cryptography and will probably become more and more important in the next few years. A second one, still in cryptography, is I think the development of new types of cryptography primitives, such as homomorphic encryptions or zero-knowledge proofs, which are not necessarily more secure than one came before, but allow to do things which are not possible using previous cryptographic techniques. So yes, that's for cryptography. For quantum computers, yes, that's a very tough question, since on the one hand, there are a lot of challenges for developing quantum computers, in particular regarding error corrections and all that. But on the other hand, you also have a lot of very clever people working on that, and a lot of very innovative ideas coming up, I would say, nearly every week now. So yes, I'm very curious to see how it will evolve. There are huge challenges on one side and a lot of good ideas on the other side. If I were to make a guess, I guess that quantum computers will probably start to be useful for specific problems where you can really make use of the quantum properties of quantum computers, and where their drawbacks, such as the high error rate, is not as critical or not as bad as it is for general applications. So yes, I think that would be my guess. Quantum computers will probably start to become really useful for some specific applications where you can really make use of their specific properties, and then maybe progressively move to more and more general applications.
And then I think you mentioned that you do some like post-quantum cryptography work at like your job. I was just wondering what the split looked like between like modern day cryptography versus like post-quantum cryptography.
Yeah, so I would say essentially everything I do is post-quantum in one way or another. But yes, I mean, I know there are also a lot of people working on non-post-quantum cryptography, in particular on the zero-knowledge proof space. As far as I'm not an expert on that, so what I say may be wrong, but as far as I'm aware, most zero-knowledge proof schemes are not post-quantum secure. Yet, this is something which is gaining momentum and something that, yes, a lot of people are working on for good reasons. So yes, I would say, I think most of cryptography will probably move to post-quantum in the next few years, just because of this threat of quantum computers. But there are definitely still things to do. Yes, even without being post-quantum, there can still be things, interesting things that can be done.
And then I was just curious, since I think cryptography has a lot to do with math, where exactly does like your physics knowledge or physics background come to use when it comes to like your cryptography work?
That's a very good question. I wish I could give a clear answer to that. I guess the best, yeah, I guess the way it comes useful mostly because physics also involves a lot of mathematics. And says by studying physics, I have indirectly studied a lot of mathematics, and it's more the mathematics part which is useful in my current job. Yes, maybe another area where knowledge of physics can be useful is for understanding how hardware works. Yes, for instance, relating to your questions about post-quantum cryptography, one reason why post-quantum cryptography is useful is because if quantum computers become a reality, then we will need post-quantum methods. So yes, I find useful to have some knowledge about how quantum computers, for instance, work at a physical level. I think it gives me some intuition about how they may disrupt or not current cryptographic methods.
Okay, that makes sense. I was just also wondering, just to sort of end off, if you had any like pieces of advice, recommendations, or suggestions for high school students, particularly young women and girls who might be interested in pursuing math, physics, or cryptography in the future.
And that's a very good question too, yes. I think the main advice would be don't be afraid to work hard, because these are, as you are probably aware, these are difficult topics. They are difficult topics to get into, and yes, it often requires quite a lot of work to learn. To learn everything that's required to become productive. But yes, that's a lot of work, but that's also very rewarding, or at least I found it very rewarding when you start to really understand how things work at a deeper and deeper level. So yes, I find there are areas which do require to work hard, but where the hard work is rewarding, because you can really get, it's really great when you start to get a deep understanding of how things work. And yes, I guess another maybe related advice would be to always size the opportunities to learn when you can. So it could be by reading a book, an interesting book or an interesting article, or if you have an opportunity to discuss with someone who's an expert in some topic, it's yes, always great to discuss and try to just to learn from their expertise, from their knowledge. This could be your teachers in high school or your professors at universities, or maybe researchers that you know or come across.
Okay, thank you so much for coming to this call today and sharing your experience. It was absolutely
You're
phenomenal.
most welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.